Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. This is where I'm going to kind of get us based off of. This is our workshop guide, and it was in the email I sent to everybody this morning or around noon. And so this workshop is for the workshop for graduates on Word. And I'm Cynthia Henry, and I'm a personal librarian for the College of Human Sciences. But I had seen a lot of people having a hard time with these templates. And actually my whole college, the College of Human Science, asked me, could I do something as a workshop so that they could refer their graduate students to it? I said, sure. So that's what we're kind of doing today. And so we're going to learn how to use track changes in Word. That'll be near the end of the workshop. And then we're going to set up our templates from thesis and dissertations. And I figure that's what a lot of y'all are here for. Those templates are a little cumbersome, but we can make it work. I'll show you how to do that. And then we're going to look at several formatting tools. I just need to grab one more thing here. Now you should see a Word screen in front. And I'm going to kind of minimize that for a second. If there's anything that I reference that you can't see, if somebody will just let me know that in the chat, that'd be great. Okay. And okay, let's get started. Let's kind of look at some of the things that we're going to look at today. So the graduate school provides all this information, and I have the links here as well. We have a formatting manual from 2021. It was revised in January of 2021, and that's what we're going to use for the most of it today. I've actually opened this, and it is sitting up here. And so you can see it was revised in January 2021. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to do this lesson other than digging through this document a bit. So I know we will be scrolling up and down a bit. But bear with me, I'll try not to scroll too much. I know as an observer, that is really annoying to me. So I'll try to do my best. But what I'm going to use this for is to look at what is the title page supposed to be looking like? What are the margins supposed to be looking like? And you can click on that area and it will tell you. And so it says the margins are 1.5 on the left side and 1 inch on the top, right, and bottom. So that's one of the first things that we'll be looking at today. And then I'm just going to get back to my Word workshop page. I'm going to open our checklist, and this one is actually updated from 2022. And I have that open up here at the top. And you can see that this is the updated page. If we look from the graduate school, it will actually say update from 2022. I just dropped this on the website, and so that's what I have. So this is a nice checklist as well. So those templates are supposed to be able to tell you most of the things. I think there's a few quirks in those templates, but what I think you should do is really run this checklist before you turn in a thesis or dissertation. You would put, because when you do turn this in, this is exactly what's going to happen. You're going to put your name and the semester that you're hoping to graduate on, and the reviewer is going to put their name, and then they're going to go through this, make sure your document matches everything that is listed here. So some quirky things that I find here is that, like, let's see here, that I thought, oh, here. Either write the copyright symbol or use the word copyright, but don't use both. So just go through there and kind of look through what you're really supposed to be doing. I can't tell you how many people get the graduate dean's name wrong. They misspell Mark Sheridan's name. So make sure you look that up, put it in the document. And then, just kind of look through here. We'll see some things as we go through here, and I'll try to point those out as well. Okay, and then the other things that we have listed here are links to the graduate school and things that you need to know, we'll be using these thesis and dissertation forms. That's where we're going to actually get the templates from. But then things you might just need to know. So if you click on this, it actually takes you to the graduate school, and it gives you some information like here's the overview for the master's, here's the overview for the doctoral programs, and then help you kind of understand what is needed to be, the steps to be making a submission. Here's some deadlines, graduate school deadlines. We have a graduate writing center. So make sure you're using these resources. This is the same forms that we'll look at in just a second. And then steps and timeline. So, if you have a hard time completing tasks, make sure you get on a timeline so that oh, I need to be having my literature done by this date, my first chapter by this date. This would really help you. And then if you need to contact anybody, Allison is who you would be contacting. So I think just digging through here is a good thing to do. They sometimes have a thesis or dissertation boot camp. Although I noticed today, and I'm sorry to say that you have to sign up for that by noon today. So I just don't think you could probably sign up now because it's afternoon. But I'll have to try to keep that in mind for future semesters, maybe offer this one day sooner so we can get you all into the boot camp if we need to. But if you need to go and ask questions at the graduate school, they're happy to help as well. And that's what the Graduate Writing Center is there for too. And you can always ask me, I'm happy to help as well. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, but we're going to use the thesis and dissertation forms here. So this is the students side, and this is the faculty and staff side. So we're going to be mostly on the student side. And then this formatting manual is what we have open here. And then we have the templates. Now, I'm really sad that they don't number these because they're alphabetical in this list, which that's what lists like to do, is alphabetize them. And so it really is front matter is the first one, and it's in the center. And then main text is the second one. And then the back matter would be the last one. And I just wish they would put a 1 in front of those when they're labeling them, so that then they, like 1, 2, 3, they would sort them out to be in the right order. So let's go ahead and get in here and dig around. There are some tutorials here. I'll just open one of these real quick. Like the page numbers. This is just going to take you to a tutorial that Microsoft has put out. And so you can see what that looks like. And it tells you the steps. I think they used to have a video at the bottom, but I don't see that now. So you could follow these steps. I don't know about y'all, I'm very visual. And so I like to see somebody kind of do it, or and that's what we will be doing today. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And before we get into the template, let's go ahead and look at a document. I just want us to all be on the same page with some information. I have a few people in the waiting room. I'm going to try to keep that up a little bit better so that we don't have anybody sitting out there. If you jump out and then you come back in, I'll try to make sure I'm remembering to get y'all included. Okay, so here's just a basic document in Word. I just opened Word, and this is the first document. And I typically work with the autosave off. Now, please do what you need to do, however you feel comfortable. But I think as I'm moving through these templates, sometimes it's easier for me. And also my age a little bit. We used to not have the autosave all the time. So I'm very used to it not autosaving. And that I know, oh, after I make so many changes, I should save that document. So that's how I work. If you are very comfortable with the autosave, then leave it on. But these are the things that I do to make it a little bit more easy for me to work in Word. The other thing I do is I turn on the ruler, and that's under View, and you just use this check mark. And so I leave that on all the time at my home computer. So you can see there's a ruler up here and there's a ruler over on the side. And that lets me see where the tabs are and where the spacing is. So if you have this whole little hourglass with a little stop at the bottom, that is where the margin is. And then these little tabs here, you can make an indent to make a tab if you needed to. And so I like to see that. You're going to see me use other things like that. On the home tab, I typically have this on, and that just shows you the formatting for the paper. So let's say this paper is hard. And so now you can see, if you look closely, that I have, anytime there's a space, it's a little kind of period looking object in the center of the space there, and then the period is at the bottom. And so I can see what is really happening. Because sometimes if you don't have that on, you can say, why is my cursor kind of here in the middle? And then you look and you're like, oh, it's tabbed twice. So I can automatically see those. And sometimes that helps me figure out if there's a formatting issue that's happening. And I feel like these templates sometimes have formatting issues, and then that's why you're having a hard time. And if you can see what it thinks is happening, then you can kind of make it do what you want it to do. Okay, so then the other things that we'll be using, I'm on a Windows, but you may be on a Mac. And so I typically use copy and paste. So on a Windows, that's Control C and Control V. So I can copy and paste this by highlighting it, say Control C, and then moving my cursor down. And I can paste it by doing Control V. If you were on a Mac, that would be the command. I don't know if everybody knows that. Maybe these are simple things, but I use those so much that I wanted to make sure that we were all using them. And then also, I use the Control F a lot. And so that is the navigation. So if I was really looking for the word paper throughout my paper, it would find it for me. You can see that it's highlighted both. And I can move through them, find it over here, or over here. Now, if it's a whole document and you need to find the one thing, you would be able to use that. And so I just like to make sure we're all using that. And sometimes I use that find, which is also here on the home page, with replace. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit in a minute. And those are things that I hope we all are kind of using if we need to. Does anybody have questions so far? Are we ready to get into the templates? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and leave this open in case we need some kind of scratch pad later. I'm just going to get a new file. And then I'm going to go ahead and close the navigation. Always open that again by getting the Control F if I needed to. And for right now, I actually am going to turn off the show me as we pull in these templates. So I'm going to go back to the thesis and dissertations forms, and I'm going to get the first template, which is the front matter. It's going to download it. I'm going to open it. And I'm going to just kind of look around in here and see what we're finding. So anything that is inside these little brackets, if you will, the little more than and less than, they really want you to follow those rules and replace that. So that I would be putting the title of the work here, and it's supposed to be centered, and that's why this paragraph here is centered. And this first one, I could just go ahead and totally delete if I was filling this out. And then I would just keep going through there and say like my first name, last name. So I would replace that. I'm just going to do that so we can see that. And put my name here. And so my last name is Henry, Cynthia Henry. And then you would take those brackets off. So you could say this. Now I haven't done my initials for my currently held titles, but then you could go on through here. Oh, and look, Mark Sheridan's name is there. If you just don't mess that up, it will be spelled right. That's one of the main things they check on in the checklist. We talked about that. So And then I'm just gonna kind of move through here a bit. Oh, here's the copyright page that we were kind of looking at from the checklist. And so you see that it has the word copyright instead of the symbol. I would just go ahead and leave that there so you don't have to worry about getting the right symbol, the correct symbol, the current symbol. And then I could also do my name here. So it'd be first name. And then I'm going to take out that verbiage as I'm typing it. And then we want to make sure it's center of the page, which it is at the moment. Then kind of keep moving through here. So now we have the acknowledgements page, and here's a little note for us that says page numbers are supposed to start with II now. So they're not supposed to be on the first two pages, the title page and the copyright page. The copyright page is supposed to be mostly blank except for the copyright. And then the title page, clearly, a lot of times title pages don't have their page numbers. So here we are with Roman numerals. They're lowercase. They're where they're supposed to be. We'll double check if the spacing is right in just a second. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep looking through here. There's a table of contents. Clearly, the table of contents changes to Arabic numbers, regular numbers, when we get to the chapter. So that's going to be in the main text. So let's go ahead and keep scrolling down here. There's our abstract, our list of tables if you have some, our list of figures if you have some. Just because that's there doesn't mean you have to have that, but if you happen to have those, you can use that as a template for it. So then here we can see, let's go ahead and look at our margins here because we knew that we looked that up first. It's supposed to be 1.5 and 1 on all the other ones, 1.5 on the left and everything else. So that is under layout. And I'm just going to use this little drop down menu with a little arrow pointing down. That will let me set those. So I'm looking to see what is here. I do know that we're not ever supposed to use the mirrored one. It says so in the document. If I happen to see that, I'll point that out to you. But since I don't see one that I think is right, I'm just going to make a customs one. And it will open one. Oh, sorry. It will open it if we double click. Maybe I have to click custom margins at the bottom. Sorry, guys. So, oh, it's not going to let me sit. In that, don't click on that. You have to click on the words down below. And then I'm going to make sure that the left is 1.5. Oh, it's 1.5, and the rest are 1. And we're going to say okay, because that's what we want. Okay. And then let's go ahead and look at our line spacing. I'm going to open our manual and kind of get that pulled back up. So here's our margins that we were looking at when we first came in here. And look, it says do not use the mirror margins. And then let's see if we can find our line spacing right around here. Try not to just be totally scrolling around. I mean, go up to the top if I can't find it real quick. Oh, here it is. So the line spacing. The thesis should be consistently spaced throughout, either with double or 1.5 spacing between the lines. And the things that should be single spaced always is anything that is centered or if there's a side margin, subheadings, or 2 lines or more, table of figures, if those lines, if that title is more than 2 lines, it should be single spaced. And then the references, it looks like. So those are pretty consistent. So we should be making sure that we are using the double or the double one, 1.5 times. So I'm going to go back to my Word and pull that up. Let's see if we can do our spacing for here. So that would be, well, we don't even have any spacing to be looking at yet. So let's go ahead and make sure to bring in the next template. So that will be the main text, and then we can look at the spacing. So I'm going to go back to our page, our web page, so that we can get the main text, main text template download. And then when I open this, I'm just going to copy this from the very top to the very bottom. Okay, I think we're ready to go there. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom of this one so that I can drop it in the front matter one. I'm going to say copy. Oh, I know that we forgot. So this is one of the things I think is broken with the template, is that there's no section break here, and there should be a section break here. And I think a lot of people see there is a page break here, but there's no section break here. I think this is why it confuses some people. So a lot of us have probably used a page break, but we may not have used a section break. So I'm just going to put my cursor right here, and then I'm going to go to the layout, and then I'm going to look under breaks, which is right kind of in this area where my mouse is. And then I'm going to look for the next break. So that's section breaks, and I'm going to make it be on the next page. So then now it's indicated that this is a section break and not a page break. And now we can go ahead and put the paste here. So do we need to do that again together? You need to make sure that there is a section break before you pull that over. So you can always undo if you need to get this chapter out, because you have to have a section break between this page, the list of figures, and chapter 1. How's everybody doing with that? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Anybody have a question? Speak now. You can type it in chat too if you want. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the next one, and we'll go ahead and pull in the last section so that we're kind of used to this. We'll have to scroll to the bottom of this section. But you can see now we have Arabic numbers in the page numbers now. And okay, so now we need to make sure we have another section break. So just like I did before, I'm going to do the next page. And we've added a section break, and we're ready for that final one, which should probably be our references, all that back matter stuff. So I'm going to go and grab that back matter. So it's the first one listed now. No, that's confusing. I'm going to open them and copy that from the very tip top. Okay. And I'm going to make sure that my cursor gets all the last little bit too. And copy that, and then I'm going to go back over to my front matter because that's where we're working. And paste that. And then we can start checking things to make sure that they came in right. And so the first thing I want to do is save this because I'm not using the autosave. I want to click File, Save As, because now I want to make sure that this is my document that I'm going to be modifying. So I'm just going to say that it's like example, and I'm going to use, let's say spring 2023. And then we're going to say save. You can do whatever you want, you know, a title to something. So now you can see in my document, I have the main text and the back matter still here, but I don't have the front matter anymore because I've overridden the front matter with these two templates so that all three templates are sitting in that one example document. Okay, so then let's start checking some of our stuff. I'm going to just scoot up to the middle part if I can here so we can test the line spacing. And so under layout again, there's this little doohickey. It's like a little partial square with an arrow sticking out of it right there at the bottom of the corner. If you click on that, that's going to let you look at this pop out paragraph, and it will let you look and see what the spacing is. So this one is set up to 1.5, and that's perfectly fine unless your style says oh, you have to use 2. And so let's talk about our style. Our writing style is those different ones. Let's see, I'm going to say okay here, and then I think on our page, yeah, our tutorials for our styles. And that's not the styles I wanted. Let's see if there's something else here. What you need to know. Maybe it's under here. A little paragraph that tells you. So writing styles are like APA or MLA, or chemistry is CBE, I think. And so CBE is kind of hard sciences, APA is mostly social sciences, MLA is English mostly, or any language. And then Travian or Chicago, they're very similar. That might be in the manual. Let's open that and see if we can see. I'm going to scoot us up to that, and maybe it talks about style. Yes, what style guide do you want to use? This is what I was kind of looking for. So MLA, Chicago, and as I was saying, Travian are very similar. Chicago came out first, and then Travian kind of modified Chicago. And so as I have a master's in library science, I use Travian in my program. Depending on what your program is, you may have to use one of these that is listed here. And so if it conflicts, my understanding is you're supposed to go with the template as much as possible, and then use your guide to fill in any questions that are missing if it's not in the guide. And so if there is no guide, if your department or your advisor has not recommended a specific guide, then you're supposed to use Travian. So whichever one you're supposed to use, I would go and get that book. There's a book for every one of them. I typically use APA quite a bit now, and a little bit of MLA. So the rest of these, I'd have to look them up again to see which one, how to write the citation. And each one of them will tell you how to lay out your paper, what font you're supposed to be using, what size of font, what type of font you're supposed to be using. And we can kind of look at that too real quick here. Let's kind of scoot up that. Because I think font is this right here, yeah. So it says that font must be at least 12 points. And if you're using sans serif fonts, that's like Times New Roman or Cambria, then it should be 12. And if it's sans serif, then it should be 10 points. So those are examples of Arial and Calibri. So let's see what this one is set up so we can see if that's right. So it looks like, and that's going to be on the home again, they're using Times New Roman, and they're using 12. That's perfectly acceptable. So you would just double check to make sure that your style is in line with that. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, let's make sure that the way they were supposed to. I'm going to kind of go to and come down again. And so let's make sure we still have our lowercase Roman numerals. And then I'm going to scoot to our chapter 1 and make sure that we're now in Arabic. We are. And then, I don't know, I think the back matter should be in Arabic numbers as well. So let's just double check that that's what is happening. Kind of near the bottom. I'm just going to scoot down there. Oh, here's the bibliography. Let's see. Oh, yep. And so it did jump to 50 because we haven't really updated those page numbers yet. And that's what the template had said. But they're at least coming through appropriately. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's kind of measure our page numbers and see where they're at. Let's see what it says in our manual, what our page numbers should be. I'm going to scoot this up. There we are. Here's the pagination. So all page numbers should be the same font size. And they should be 1 inch from the bottom. There should be no page numbers on the title page or the copyright page. The front matter, which we know is coming in right, should be lowercase Roman numbers. And they start with II. And then chapter 1 that we just looked at starts with a 1 with the Arabic numbers. So then let's just make sure that they are 1 inch from the bottom. So I'm going to go back to my example, and I'm just going to grab one of these. If I double click on the page numbers, then it will tell me at the top where that is. And so the footer is saying that it's 1 inch from the bottom. So all numbers are currently 1 inch from the bottom. So that is good. It also now tells us that the header is a 1/2 inch from the top. So let's kind of look at that and see if that's where our header is supposed to be. So I'm going to go back to the manual real quick and see if I can find what is our header. Oh, it's right here. Let's do that. Yeah. So the running header is text that appears at the top of the document. All theses and dissertations must have the following text and running header starting on the acknowledgements page. So that is actually the page that starts with the II. And then it should say Texas Tech University, the student name. I'm going to use my name, and then the month and year of graduation. And it should be right aligned, and it should be 1 smaller in font than the main document. So we know that the main document text is at 12. The running header would be at 11, and it should be a 1/2 inch from the top, which we just saw that that is correct. Let's check on the rest of this and fix our headers while we're in here. So I'm going to go back to my document, and when you click on the footer, you automatically get the header. So it is a 1/2 inch here. I'm going to highlight this area and go back over to the home, and it is 11, so that is perfect. That's what we want. I'm going to go ahead and change my name here. Well, it's not changing it to italicized. I'm going to get in for just a little bit so it is italicized. And put my last name, and then make sure I clean up anything that I don't need. Then I'm going to pretend like I'm going to graduate in May of this year. Oop, and that's still italicized. So I'm going to get over here where it's not and say May. And then I'm going to say 2023. Let's hope we all graduate then, right? Okay, so now I've just kind of set up this one. So I'm going to click on the header and footer tab again at the top. It's kind of highlighted in blue. I'm going to close that. But when I do that, I'm just going to double check that all that works throughout the whole document. Remember, we have section breaks now. So let's just go to the top and make sure everything is coming through right. Remember, no page numbers here or here. Then we should be on the acknowledgement page. Oh, and look, this one didn't change because it's in the first section. So let's go ahead and click on it again. I'm going to take out that running header there. Don't need that text. I'm going to scoot over and put my name. Whoop. I'm going to scoot over and say May. And it is right aligned. All that is good. I'm going to close that and make sure that kind of transferred all down this whole section. Now I notice in the chapter section when I fixed the first one, oh, I think we need to check one more thing that I forgot to check here. Is this the right size? It is not. So we want to make sure that it's 1 less. So the other one was right. I'm going to close this. We should be good here. This one we had checked for the size already. I'm just going to scoot down now to the bibliography real quick and make sure that that came through over there and that it is all those right things. So that's what we're going to kind of do today, is just kind of move through these and make sure that all this stuff is right. Okay, so then I need to make sure this is the right size. It is the right size. I'm going to put my name class. We should be all good. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, I'm gonna close this then. So we kind of checked on the header and the footer. And then depending on your style, remember that's gonna be applicable here. But then we're gonna have to look at our headings for our table of contents. I think is the next big thing that is really kind of not great in here. So I'm gonna get our headings. Let me see if I can find the headings. There they are. I'm gonna click on headings. It's on page 13. And so, okay, this is where it's telling you, make sure you consult with your department, your approved style guide. And so each style guide has different requirements for their own headings, but top level headings should be acknowledgements, table of contents, abstract references, appendixes, stuff like that. Oh, and chapter titles. Each new chapter should start on its own page. It should have chapter and the number on the line above the chapter title. So let's kind of look at all that before I get going into anything else. See what that looks like. I'm just going to scoot here to the middle so we can have an example of that. Look at chapter 1. There we are. So chapter 1 here, and then here is our actual chapter heading. In this template, it is the introduction. All chapter titles that are longer than one line should be single spaced. That's what they're using as a chapter title here. And so let's see if that is a heading 1. It is a heading 1. And then as things as a heading 2 is here. Well, it is a heading 2. Y'all see that I'm seeing that up here in this box. So this is a heading 1. And this is a heading 2. And then let's see if we have a third heading. Yep, here's heading 3. That's all good. But if we look up here in our table of contents, what do we find? So the table of contents does not have the chapter here. I mean, it doesn't say chapter 1. It says the heading. So let's see here. If the way it is right now, want to make sure that this, okay, it's not a chapter, it's not a heading 1. Okay, that looks good. So let's go ahead and look at some other top level ones and make sure that those are coming in right. Again, I'm just going to go to the very top, give these 2 pages. This is an acknowledgement. It is heading 1. Great, that's what it's supposed to be. Table of contents. Well, look below. We don't really want the table of contents here, but it is identified as a heading 1. So that's the first thing we're going to have to fix in the table of contents, because right now, if we updated the table of contents, it would move this title. I mean, it would still stay here, but it would input a table of contents here. We don't want that to happen. So I'm going to highlight this, and I know I don't want it back, but I'm kind of looking to see if there's something else here that I do want. So I don't see that. So I'm going to use that little doohickey again, where it's a little square to pop out, because I need a new style to pop out. So it is really on heading 1, but we know this is a table of contents. So we're going to look in the styles box. I hope everybody can see the styles box. And I'm going to be looking for, it's alphabetical, so I'm going to kind of look and see if there's something down in the table of contents area. So I see table of figures, table of page, TOA. That's not the same as table of contents. So let's keep looking and see. Oh, I see all these TOAs. What else do we got here? Oh, look at this table of contents heading. So that's what I'm going to select. Whoop, let me undo that, because I want to move this highlighted to this, but I'm going to use this drop down, and I'm going to match this table of heading to my section. And I think if I click right here, it will kind of make this content be that program formatting. It is now reformatting this heading to the formatting that is already in here, is what that drop down menu allowed me to do. It's match what is already selected. And let's see if that then works the way we want it to. We should see the table of contents heading now here. So we can use that. So now if we were to update this table of contents, this would not be listed in this list, which it should not be, as they can show you the example doesn't have it here. Okay, so we have acknowledgement and the abstract and the list of tables and the list of figures, right? Let's go look at our chapter title one. We saw that it was, oh, I didn't look to see if these are here. What about the abstract? It is one. Okay. And then unless that is one too. Unless the figures, it is one too. And this, oh, and look what that did. It did something to that, didn't it? Is this different than what it was? We'll have to see. Okay, so then this is still saying that it is something else. So let's look at that. I want to look a little bit deeper at that one. And I'm going to use that styles again. And it says it's a chapter heading, which is great. That's what we want it to be. But then I'm going to use this little drop down menu. And I want to look at the modify. Oh, and see, okay, it is style based on heading one. And we don't want that to be that way. Because if we did this, then chapter one will be in the list. We don't want this line to be in the list. We only want this line to be in the list. So let's see what it says here. If we can find something that would be right. We don't want chapter heading to be based on heading one. I think I'm going to try to base it on no style and see what we get. Say, okay. So it did move it over, but it should just be centered. And it should be bolded. And it should be 14. We can look at all that again in our packet here. Remember, chapters should be, each new chapter should start on its own page and should have chapter and a number on the line above the chapter title. And remember, these are supposed to be considered top level headings. So let's go ahead and see what if we were to update our table of contents, what does it look like now? And then we'll check on our heading to make sure that it's right. Our chapter heading. Okay, so to update the table of contents, you can do two things. You can update the table, and it will ask you. They usually ask you just the page numbers or the whole thing. So see, it updated it, so we're going to have to fix that. Let me go back in here to the main temple text, and I'm just going to bring that over again because it must have got messed up. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so I'm going to copy just this title, and then I'm going to put it back into our document at the top of chapter 1 so it can be updated appropriately because the font must have changed. Oh, that's totally different. Okay, let's undo that. Let me see if I can get this to go back the way it was supposed to be. So it's supposed to be centered. Is it supposed to be centered? Sure. Yeah, it's centered, it's bold, it's 14, it's heading 1. That's what we need it to look like over here. It's centered, it's bold. Oh, I just changed the font. That's what it was. All right, so let me get down here. Y'all may not have this problem. I'm just trying to get to New Times Roman. There it is. And then we want it to be 14, bold, centered. And it doesn't matter that it is red or not red because that was just bringing your eye to it. And so this is just a little note too. So that kind of looks weird right here. I might even take that little bit out so that we can have a normal spacing. Let's see if we're supposed to space there or not. I'm gonna look at chapter 2 real quick. Oh, maybe we won't see chapter 2. Or chapter 3, yeah, okay, no spacing. Okay, so I'm gonna scoot back up and make sure that my spacing is right at the top of chapter 1. So I don't think I'm supposed to have a space here is what my problem. Okay, so now let's go and see if we've fixed our chapter 1 issue. I'm gonna go back up here so you can see it update here. And so then the update is under references again, update table. Now here it is after you update once, it will ask you this from now on. Do you want to just update the numbers or you want to update the entire table? So if I'm changing the title of something that needs to be in the table, then it has to be updating the entire table. If I notice that on, as I'm writing and my chapter is getting longer and longer, but the page numbers haven't updated over here to push chapter 2 to maybe page 15, let's say, then I could just do the page numbers. But right now, since we're editing any text that is supposed to be in the table of contents, we have to do the entire table. So we'll say, okay, and let's see what happened there. Okay, so let's make sure that that looks like it's supposed to. I'm going to look back at my, well, I didn't bring that, I did bring it down, but I've edited it. So I want to make sure that I have it right again. I'm going to go back to my forms here so that I can find that front matter and see what it looks like again. And let's see what the table of contents looks here. Remember, we know this is the front matter. So it should say list of figures, table 1, chapter 1, and all this should be this way. Let's make sure that that's what that looks like on our paper. Now that is an example. It is not. It should be bolded. So let's see what is happening there. It should be heading 1. I'm just going to make sure that that title is still listed as a heading 1. And it's under home. Oh, for some reason it got to a 2. Somehow I managed to do that. Maybe y'all didn't do that. So here we are. Now I'm going to go back up there and it should be right. Maybe y'all saw the correct one. But whenever it's not looking right, you just got to keep playing with it until it does. So I'm going to update my table, the entire table again. There we go. So we're good here. Now, whatever is typed here is what is typed below. I do think in the template, they have 1 dot chapter title, but it really should just start all things that are longer than 1 space. This is just text for you to see. And I think you're supposed to have it. Let's see if we can get that to happen. I don't have the other. Let's look and see. Let's do chapter 2 and get it up there so we can see what it looks like. Oh, it is analysis. So yeah, it should be right here. Let's see if that's what. Here's chapter 2. Let's see what the template looks like. That is just what they want it to say. Not really. I have to look that up. I have seen some people say that they might have to have the 1 there, but if you do, you have to type it in the space. And I cannot imagine that you would want to type that there. Because it's chapter 1 here, and it would just start with the introduction. I believe that is correct. Even with the who is Schreibner, that's how that starts. It doesn't say chapter 3 subtitle. See? So I think we're good to go there. Okay, so did anybody see something else break on the table of contents that we need to kind of address? I'll point it out to you. These page numbers are supposed to be lowercase, but every time that you update this, it's going to change them to uppercase. And because all of this is supposed to be bolded and capitalized, this is all correct. So to fix this, I mean, this is a broken thing trying to be fixed. You just highlight the 2 that need to be lowercase, right click that, look and then you have to unclick all caps, and then you see it changes that text to lowercase. And when I say okay, it changes that text to lowercase. And then it's really telling you you have an outlier in your table of contents. So what I would do is I would just update this all the way through, leaving those capitalized until that's one of the last things you do in the document. You'll want to come and change them back to lowercase. Just those characters, whatever characters need to be, the 2, the 3, whatever, 1, and then make them be that way. And then you can just go ahead and click over here and it will be off. Let's see, I just got to click some pixels because I used to be highlighting. Good. Should be good. Light it up top there. That's fine. Oh yeah, there we go. So then this would be one of the last things that I would do, because every time you, even if you update just the page numbers, it will update that content. I'm pretty sure. I'm just going to test that theory real quick. So I'm going to only update the page numbers now, and let's see what happens. Oh no! So once you get your text done, it allows that in there. So then you can not have to worry about remembering one last thing at the last minute. Because also when you're finally, pretty much near the end, you're not going to be updating the table of contents. That's going to be things, you're not going to be changing the text of the content. Your titles to your chapters will be a little bit more solidified. Your subheadings will be a little bit more solidified. As you're still working that out, it's going to change. But at the end, it will be pretty positive. The only thing that you will have to change then is the page numbers. So just remember the Roman ones, you have to come back in, do that little click around. Does anybody else have anything? Let me make sure. Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. So I was going to talk about the styles a little bit again. APA just went from period space to period space. And I know that that's a little bit crazy. Let me see if I can find something in here. Oh yes, here we go. So here, right here is the first chapter that we're on. You see that there's a period, and because I have the show, you can see the 2 spaces dots, and then the I starts. So that is how quite a few Americans learned how to type. Maybe, I don't know, around the world, but that is what we were taught to type when I was learning to type. And so, but you can see they're not consistent, because this one is just period space. So I still because sometimes when I'm typing fast, I still do that space, even though I know I'm supposed to do 1 space now. So I often do this find and replace. And so then that is under, I think it's under home. Yeah. So the replace, I can use this replace option by typing in what I want to find, and this is period space space, and I want to replace it with period space. And it will, if I make sure that my cursor is at the top of the document or this chapter, whatever I'm looking for, it will find the next one. And it's found one, and it's highlighted it, and then I can change and replace that. And then I can go through the whole document. Or if I feel comfortable and I want to use replace all, then I can do that throughout the whole document too. But that is something that I really like to know, because, occasionally you have a, spelling of a name that you're not very familiar with. And I don't know about you, but occasionally I'll get a vowel switched around, or if you notice that you've been typing Henry incorrectly the whole time, you can just drop in here and type it the correct way and then find all those. And then you don't have to kind of be double checking yourself that I get every one of those again. So I think that's a great tool. Okay, I think that is most of what I thought was the things we really needed to focus on in these templates. Make sure you have section breaks between the templates when you download them and put them into one. Make sure that your headings are set up correctly for your table of contents. Things that you don't want to be in there should not be labeled heading 1, 2, or 3. Things that you do want in the table of contents should be labeled heading 1, 2, or 3. Does anybody have any questions before we move on to the next part? I thought we would be covering our track changes mostly. I'm going to give you all a second if you need to ask something.
Sorry, this is about my schedule.
I'm sorry?
I have a class at the moment.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. That's fine.
Sorry.
No, that's
Can
good.
you send me the
Yeah,
recording?
yes, I will definitely do that. Yeah, no, you're
I
good.
thought it was just.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, some of them are 2 hours. So yeah, no worries. It happens. I hope you learned something. Okay,
Thank
good.
you so much.
Okay, so we've been talking about an hour. Maybe 5-minute break. I'm gonna probably start talking again just before 3:10. Because I have 3:04 on my computer, and then I can get back to us all at just 3:10. So if you need to stretch your legs or run around the block or come to the kitchen if you're at home, do whatever you need to, and I'll be right back too.
So sorry about this.
No. Are you gonna have a good class this afternoon? Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay.
You too. Okay. Here I am. See if there's any new people coming in. Nope. I'm gonna clean up while we wait. We just have a couple minutes before we get going again? Is that all open in case we have questions? The next thing we'll be doing is we're going to be looking at this document about basset hounds. I don't know about y'all, but I had a basset hound pass away. I have a new doggy. He's part basset, 50% basset, and 50% yellow lab. And my niece calls him like a corn dog because he's all yellow. That's what he looks like. The coloring is from the lab, but he has some coloring from the basset. At the tip of his tail, it's white, and his nose is spotted, and his paws are white. And he's really short like a basset. So I thought that would be fun to kind of talk about and use in our document where we needed to track changes. So we still have 1 minute. If anybody has a question while we make sure that everybody is back to their computer at the time I said, please feel free to speak up now. I still have everything open that we can kind of look at if we need to. I might even kind of go through the checklist one more time. Okay, here we are. It's 3:10. We should all be back at our computers. I'm going to download the Basset Hound document that I put on our workshop guide. And so I'm just going to click on that. My workshop guide is going to download it here. And here we are. So now what we're doing is we're kind of learning how to track changes. And let's kind of talk about what that means. So normally in this kind of setting, I had 2 colleagues help me, but how you would be using this track changes is you're writing a document. You're going to set up that document, and then you can come in here and turn on track changes. That's under review, and then we'll be under track changes. And then you would send that to your chair or your committee, and then they would make comments. And that's what my colleagues did here for me. So Kimberly Vardaman and Jenny Jacobs, those are librarians here, and they, you may know them as well. And so as they were making changes, we were just pretending like Kimberly was the chair and Jenny was a committee member. And so that you can see that they can make edits to the document I've sent, and you can see it all here. So there's 4 different kinds of markup. So this is really on all markup. If I wanted to start with my original, this is what it looks like when I send it to them. But since we have the track changes on, then we can also see the simple markup. This is what they've done. And then you can see no markup. And then you can see all markup. And that's where this is. So, and because the track changes is already on, it will even track what I do. So I'm just going to do a little edit here so that we can see that. So I say description of Basset. Okay, so you can see I'm in red, but then you can see Kimberly, I believe, is in purple. Yeah, there she is. She's in purple. So anything you see is purple, that's Kimberly. Anything that you see in blue, that should be, oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting that backwards. Kimberly is blue and Jenny is purple. And so then you can see that. Yeah. So let's go through here, and when you got track changes paper back, this is how you would receive it. It would look something like this. It probably will be on the all markup, and that's where I usually live, so that I can just see all of this. I do have the show icons on. If you don't like that, we can remember turn that off here on the home page, and you would just see it looking like this. I sometimes like to see that, especially in the track changes area, because sometimes people just like a comma or period, and it's sometimes hard to see that. So back on our review tab, I'm in the track changes. I'm going to go ahead and put my cursor at the very top, and then I have some options. I can accept a change, or I can reject a change. I can even use these little drop-down menus and accept and move to the next. Or if I've looked at all the markup, the simple markup, and see what it would be if we accepted all the changes, then I can do accept all if that's what I wanted to do. Or if I wanted to accept them all and stop tracking, I could do that too. That's the same with the rejection. You have the same options there. I'm going to move one at a time so you can see what it looks like as we do that. But again, anything that they have made changes, if you put the simple markup, that's what the document would look like if you accepted all of them. Now you can see these lines out here to the side saying, oh, there was a substitution here. But that also comes up in the all markup, and it just goes gray because several people have done it. But the simple markup is there to kind of help you read the document in case you wanted to scan it before you accept it all. Then you can do that real quick that way. This way you kind of see what was and what would be in the all markup. So I'm putting my cursor here at the top, and I'm going to use the accept, move to the next. So it's moved to the next one, and it's highlighted. I'm going to like that new description, so I'm going to say accept and move to the next. So now it has accepted that change, and it will be there from now on. Now I'm moving to the next, and you see it's highlighted it here. Let's make sure we're there. Oh, here it is. It's the period. And so somebody added that. It's so tiny, I can't even see who it is. It may be Kimberly. And so I'm going to go ahead and say accept and move to the next. Now you can see that somebody didn't want it hyphenated. So Jenny said, instead of having it heavier bones with it hyphenated, we just wanted to have a space in between. And that's what you can see the difference between with the show. You can see the little dot there. And that is because we have the show all on. Remember the show stats? You would just see the space if you didn't have that. So I'm going to say, okay, this is good with me. So I'm going to go over here and say accept and move to the next. So now we took out, because we got rid of that dash one, but now we just got to accept the space one. And I'll say accept and move to the next. So now we've moved out of that first paragraph and we're into the next one. So we can go ahead and say accept this and move to the next. So then you can do that all the way down the paper, or over here we also have comments. So my colleagues were really nice to pretend like this is, a thesis or a dissertation, even though it's just a little blurb that really I just copied out of Wikipedia so we would have something to kind of edit. And it is, she's just asking, oh, did you cite this Frederickson in your literature review? Well, I don't know, did I? So that might be something I want to address as the student. I could say, oh, maybe that's a great idea, Kimberly, I should cite that. So then I could say, oh, let me go back up to my literature review, put in Randy Frederickson, 2018, and then have it. And then I can even make my own comment here. Thanks for catching that. Whoops. It now put that there, post it. Then the next time Kimberly looks at it, she will review, make sure it's there. It is there, okay. And then we can say, we're gonna resolve this thread or delete the thread, whatever we want. So that's just one way to make sure you keep all the content that you're referencing in that same document. So you don't have to keep saying, oh, I need to remember to address the second paragraph on page 2, or second paragraph in chapter 2. You know, in notes someplace else. It's right here in the document. And then once they're all resolved, you can just say resolve thread. And you and the chair or the committee, whoever, y'all can come to a resolution of, I'm going to resolve them as a student. You're going to resolve them, however you're going to resolve them, and or delete them, whichever you want to say. And so you can see the next one is, oh, I don't really understand what this means. We need to explain what sent hound means more. And that is really good, especially instead of it just being basic grammar that they're trying to address. They're like, oh, I don't really understand your findings. Can you identify what this analysis part means, or explore more here, or I think you need more in your lit review. Please look at, you know, Smith, he did some great work in 2010 or whatever. They can make notes to you right in that document. And so that is basically all that track changes is. Does anybody have any questions about the track changes? So you can show the comments. That's what these little paragraphs are out to the side. I can drop down and see the comments, or show no comments that if I don't want the comments to be on the side. And then if I'm done with everything, I can turn track changes off by toggling this again. And I can say for everyone or for just me, or, you know, if I want to say everyone, then all of the track changes are turned off. You can see it's no longer highlighted. If it's on, then it's on. And it could be for everybody, or for just you, I guess, if you wanted to do it that way. So that's how you would use track changes, and it's just under the review. You can make a new comment yourself. I just have to highlight something and say new comments. So if you needed to ask the professor or the committee something, you know, you could say something here. Or maybe they have made a note here and you don't understand their note. So then you can make a comment out of it and say, oh, can you tell me what you mean by this? I don't understand what that is. Explain more, whatever you want to start. And then it would be posted and somebody can do that. Now, this again is a time that autosave. That's when it's going to be a little tricky. Sometimes I would like to play around with this and maybe accept something and not accept other things. If you have the autosave on, the minute you accept something, it's going to save it. So just be aware of that. This I use for the demonstration, but I won't save the changes here so I can keep it how it was at the beginning of this class. So if it was autosave on, it would automatically save it on, you know, with these new changes. So just be aware of that. Think about that, how you want to do your own saving, I guess, with track changes and everything. Okay, I'm going to ask one more time if we have any other questions, or if we had any questions from the templates in our main document, the example from spring 2023. If not, we can go ahead and wrap up. I'm sorry that we took a quick break. We could have just plowed through. I didn't think it would be quite this short after the break. Okay, well, thank y'all so much for coming. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and stop recording unless somebody has something else.